Alright guys, today we're going to cover my 4 favorite baits. First off, the spinnerbait. I picked this one up just this past weekend. Took it fishing that evening. Third cast, hooked up with a 5 pounder. I'll bring that to you here in a moment. This one actually has 3 blades on it. I wanted to try something a little different. I was impressed with it. I bought another one that I'd never tied on. Haven't threw it yet. By the way, these are both of these are hog collar baits, spinner baits. One of them's in 3/8. That's the one I just showed you. It's a little bit lighter than this one. This one has the Colorado blades on it to give a little more of a thump to get their attention, and they make it in a 1/2 ounce because the lift on the blades makes up for the difference in the weight of the head on it. I used to hate throwing spinner baits until I learned them, so y'all bear with me a little bit. I'll get more into detail about them later on. I'm just bringing y'all some baits and the poles that I use, the line that I use, and why I do it. So I'm throwing this on. This is not a fancy rod at all. It's pretty cheap. It's a Browning. I actually traded a guy a bow for this. All right, it's really flimsy. It has a lot of action. You see the tip. See how it shakes. This pole is a fiberglass pole. Extremely hard to break. Very durable. It is heavy. I don't fish fancy. If it works, it works. It'll catch them. So I've had this rod longer than I've had any other rod, and it has been through it, and it's held up. Best rod I ever had. So when I'm throwing my spinner baits, I prefer to throw it on mono or fluoro. This here that I'm throwing it on, this is 12-pound fluoro. The reel is it's a Black Max Abu. You can buy it at Walmart for around 45-50 bucks. It's a 6/4-1, so it's on the slower end of the range, but it's still in the middle kind of. You don't want to roll a spinnerbait real fast. I don't like rolling mine real fast. So, anyways, that's what I got going on spinnerbait setup wise. The reason that you want this flimsy tip is you want him to be able to take the bait without you snatching it out of his mouth. You want the fish to go with it and then just really set the hook itself. You don't set the hook at all when you're fishing a spinnerbait. So that's the reason in the rod. And you'll see in the clip, the rod's steadily jumping. I'm holding the same amount of pressure on it, but it never lets go. If I was using a stiff rod, he's sitting there trying to pull on it. It's going to be way different action. The spinnerbait is liable to come flying out of his mouth because you never did set the hook on it. You let him set it himself. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to cover all this as fast as I can. So these were the 2 spinnerbaits. The one I showed you with the 3 blades, and this one. They were the hog collars. They did good, or well, the 3 blade did good. I've yet to throw this one. I'm gonna bring y'all fish on this one soon. Just hang tight. Ooh, get it, girl. That's going on 10-pound tip. Nice jump. You video? You still video?
Mm-hmm.
Zeros. Hooked in a bluegrass, limb casing. £5 on the dot. Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It does.
Don't take it, you're good. Just let it roll.
I wouldn't take it.
Alright. Go on, bro. Alright, my second way I'm going to cover that I prefer to fish, which is probably my favorite, this is buzzbait fishing. You'll see me throw a buzzbait in the mornings, in the middle of the day, in the evening time. I kind of wait and let the fish tell me what to do and when to do it. So I found it to be very, very effective in the middle of the day when you can't get a bite on anything. I've also found it to be a bunch of waste of time, but that's why I bring it to you, to save you that time. All right, this is actually a lunker lure buzzbait. I don't even throw a trailer hook whenever I throw one of these most of the time. I'm gonna do a whole big segment on just buzzbaits, but I'm bringing you the good stuff now. So buzzbait, that's my number 2. On the buzzbait, as far as the rod goes, there's no set way that I say to do it, and because I have my purposes on wanting to use it on a flimsier rod sometimes, I have my purposes on wanting to use it on a stiffer rod sometimes. Just depends what I'm doing. We'll cover that when I get to the buzzbaits.
Do you see that? Do you see that? What? And the freaking tank. Freaking tank. First bite I've had all morning. Holy crap. I was not expecting that when he hit it. Come up and hit it like a baby. Oh man. I was on a lunker lure buzzbait. Man, that is a tank. Ooh. I got 2 sets of scales. I'm gonna try both of them. There's a 10-2 right here. I don't think that's right. I think it's bigger. I'm gonna try to go with scales. and 4.5. Look at that.
So, number 3 would be a frog. I love frogging. I love the explosions you get from it. It's so versatile. You can throw it in open water. It's meant to fish off the edges, through the pads, through the top of grass. My favorite frog in general that I've used so far is a Stanley rivet frog. It's not your typical hollow body frog. It actually comes separate. The hook in the frog, the hook actually screws into the tip of the frog, and then you just push the hooks around the legs like so, and then it's got a little pocket right here. You just tuck the hooks up in the pocket. When a fish hits it, it comes out really easy. The hookup ratios are phenomenal compared to a regular frog. We'll cover that too. So that's by far my favorite frog. This hook's actually a weighted hook. They come weightless. I don't like the weighted hooks. It makes the frog sit a little lower in the water. It does tend to make the feet kick a little harder on it, and these feet, you can see how paddled they are. When this thing comes to the water, it's steadily plop, 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 plop. So, yeah, I'll do that again. Plop, 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 plop. So that is my favorite frog. I like other frogs, different times, different scenarios. There's something for everything most of the time.
Are you videoing this?
I am. Sure am.
Tank right there, baby.
Ooh, that is a big fish.
That's on that river frog I was telling you about. Are you still videoing that?
Yeah,
That's
you got grass all over your face.
on the rivet frog.
That's a good one.
Yeah, lure it out. I gotta redo it. Seven, 6.
Yep.
7, 6. Don't be dry.
All right. This is probably most of the fish that I've caught have probably been Texas rig fishing. I picked up these baits also whenever I went down there to the shop. This is it's called a 8-inch big dead ringer in black. Zoom. I love Zoom products. I've caught a lot of fish on them. I tend not to stray too far outside of Walmart because it's the cheapest thing that I can do. There are many fancy, better baits there for sure. But I'm not an online type guy buying stuff or whatever. I don't do credit cards and all that. I'm your redneck backwoods man spending time on the water. So whenever I'm fishing in deeper water, I'm gonna use a bigger weight. I don't want to spend as much time waiting on my bait to get to the bottom to get to the fish. So I'm gonna throw a bigger weight. And just the opposite, from shallow water fishing, I'm gonna usually throw a smaller weight. So a big thing that people, a lot of people don't do, that you'll see me doing 80% of the time, I'm gonna put on a fluorocarbon leader. I'm gonna do it for two reasons. Number one, it's abrasion resistance. Braid isn't. All right. I highly prefer braid because it's more sensitive. I know when I get bit, especially when I'm fishing deep water. If you're fishing 20 plus foot of water with mono and you get bit by a 2-pounder, there's a big chance that you never feel him at all unless he just swallows it and takes off with it wide open. So this, I'm actually going to show you guys my knot too whenever I get it undone. But the number two reason is visibility. Mono, whenever light hits a monofilament line, it creates a prism, and the fish can actually see the color spectrum come through your monofilament line, and a lot of times that will deter a big fish that's smart, that's already been caught before. He's gonna see that, he might see that, and he don't want it. It'll make them skittish. It really will. Fish are dumb, but they're smart. They're smarter than some people give them credit for, but they're dumber than, they're too dumb to use it as an excuse not to catch fish. I'll say it like that. So, this is actually what I cut off earlier before I went and tried to catch a fish. So I'm just gonna re-show y'all this knot. This is really handy. This is what the final product of the knot will look like. Let's see if I can get it to zoom in. It's a small knot, if you can tell. So y'all bear with me. Alright. This is my leader. I'm gonna take the fluoro side of it. I'm gonna bend it over. I'm gonna create a loop. I hope you guys can see this. So I've got a loop. I go through with my line. Come out the other side. I'm gonna pinch it right there. Alright, so I got this hanging. I'm gonna keep these two lines pressed together, and I'm gonna wrap it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You see that? Alright, so I wrapped it 6 times. Now I'm going to pinch it. And remember, I got the line, I got my fluoro doubled over. So I wrapped them together. Now I'm going to go back up every wrap as even and neat as I can to make the smallest knot when I cinch it. So I wrap it on each thread. I know this takes time, and it's really nice just to have a pole set up like this all the time so you don't have to tie this knot. It does take a minute, but it's worth tying it. So I wrapped it back up even, all the way to the top of my top slot. my line is coming in this side, so I'm going to go back out the same or the opposite way. So if my line's going one way, I'm coming the other with it, and I just send it back through the loop. I got one side coming out one way and one side the other. Then I'm going to hold it here. I'm going to wet my line. You never want to cinch a fluorocarbon knot without wetting it first. It will break. So I wet it. I pull it. I'm going to come pulling my tag in a little bit. And there you have it. I'm going to go and take, after I get it, make sure it's completely cinched. I'm going to go back with my scissors, and I'm going to trust myself that I tied this knot good because I took my time on it. And I'm going to cut it really short. And I'm going to cut this one really short. If I am tying this knot and I'm in a hurry, if the fish are really biting, I get broke off by a really big fish, I'll actually hold this and cover it up just to speed the process up. I'll cover my knot up with my fingers. I'll take a lighter, hit it to it, and melt it so it creates a little knot, so I can make sure that I don't get broke off by a bad knot. It just helps secure it a little bit. Whenever you heat it up with that lighter, it melts it and makes a little knot right there. But if I take my time, I don't usually have a problem with it coming loose. Drag set is very important whenever you're fishing fluorocarbon, because fluorocarbon doesn't like to stretch. It's not really good on the impacts, but it is really good for picking up bites. So you'll hear a bunch of people say, I don't like fishing fluorocarbon, I get broke off. Well, fix it. You know, what's the problem? Figure out the problem and find a solution, right? So last time I was using this, I was actually at Tired Creek. That's just a 1/4 ounce lead weight. I really don't like using the lead weights. I like tungsten. You can feel the bump a lot better. They're a lot more expensive though. They're smaller, they're more dense, so if it's smaller and the same weight, it's going to go through the water a lot faster, so I don't have to wait as much on between casts. I get to make that many more casts that day. The more casts, the more fish. I have people ask me all the time, what's the best piece of advice you could give? I tell them, show up. Show up. That's what you got to do. Number one, you can't learn anything if you ain't there. Or I guess you can if you watching YouTube videos. But I'm throwing I do not throw anything less than a 5/0 hook. I don't go fishing for smaller fish. I want to catch a bigger fish. I just assume to deter that smaller fish. When it comes to the knot tying on my hooks, I like to use a polymer knot on almost everything I do. I think a buzzbait and a spinnerbait is about the only things that I do not use a polymer knot. But I'll walk you through that if you don't know what it is. You fold your line over one time, double it up, slip the double through your eye, pull you some slack. Make sure you get plenty of slack because you need it to make this knot. So got it doubled over through the eye. I make a simple knot without cinching it. It's a simple knot, and then I just slip my hook through my loop before I cinch it, wet it, and then I ease it down. If the whole point in wetting it is fluorocarbon will literally burn itself, and if it burns itself, it's no good. It's weak. It's gonna break if you get a big hit. So I got it tightened down. That's it. That's all there is to it. A lot of people take and cut their tag ends really super short. There's no sense in it. If that fish is gonna bite it with this much of it hanging out, he don't care how much is hanging out right here. It's just not worth risking it cutting it super short. I rig my Texas worm. I rig it. I'll go through a 1/4 inch or so. I'll come out, put it on up on the hook, get it set, measure with my fingers how far down where my hook meets, and I'm gonna pinch it there, and then I'm gonna stick the hook in. I bring it all the way out of the worm, and then pick it up and put it back on, just to hide the very tip of it. Makes for way better hook sets instead of leaving the hook completely inside the worm. Whenever I'm throwing this Texas rig, I prefer to have it on a long rod. You've heard me say it before, maybe. It's less work the more rod you have. It cancels out your sensitivity a little bit, but if you're fishing braid, it makes up for it. I like to throw it on a 7 1-to-1 reel. I can bring it fast, I can bring it slow, I can do whatever I want to. It's a good combination reel to do almost anything you're trying to do. The rod I use, it's a heavy. This is a Vengeance, Abu Garcia Vengeance from Walmart for 49 bucks. You can't beat it. I can't beat it for the price anyway. So that's my setup whenever I'm Texas rig fishing.
Oh yeah, that's the stud I've been hunting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come here. Yes sir. Yes sir. Tank baby. Scale zeroed. $5.13. You see that? $5.13. That's the whole fish. Y'all got to cast to catch the everything. Out here at Tiger Creek Lake. That's a pretty fish. And you put it to use and you catch some good fish on it, tag me on it, and then Instagram, Facebook, I'll give you a shout out with your picture. I appreciate you guys. Tight lines, good times.